After being killed by the goddess and my neighbors working together, I was reborn, returning to 1 month before the apocalypse arrived. In my previous life, I was a foolishly kind person. I opened the door and let them in, only to end up dismembered and boiled into soup. In this life, with infinite storage space in my hands, I set my sights on a giant Walmart warehouse in South China covering millions of square meters as a $0 shopping target. Looking at Fong green tea hypocritically edging closer in front of me, I smiled. Since you love acting so much, then I'll play along with you and see how you end up kneeling and begging me. Pain, so much pain. That unforgettable pain spread through my entire body. It wasn't an illusion, but reality that truly happened to me. I was knocked to the ground and trampled by the friends and neighbors I had once trusted and helped, as fists, kicks, and clubs rained down on me. In this apocalypse of scarce supplies, they completely disregarded all the kindness I had once shown them and struck with lethal intent. At death's door, I vaguely saw the goddess of my dreams, Fong Yuqing, standing behind the crowd, putting on a pitiful look as she shouted with all her might. I was the one who told him to open the door, so you need to give me an extra share of the supplies. It was this woman who tricked me into opening the door and then caused my death. I looked at her, my eyes filled with hatred and regret. If anyone was to blame, it could only be myself for being too stupid, too kind, and thus becoming someone else's stepping stone in this apocalypse. How I wished everything could start over. If that happened, I would never again show mercy to anyone. I would live only for myself. Everything went black before my eyes, and I lost consciousness. Yet in the very next moment, I suddenly opened my eyes and sat up from the sofa. The hellish scene I had just experienced and that horrifying pain were still vivid in my mind. I gasped for breath, and my whole body was soon drenched in sweat. What was going on? Hadn't I been killed by that pack of beastly neighbors? After collecting myself, I began to look around. I was all too familiar with this place. It was my own home. The comfortable temperature in the air filled me with astonishment. Because in December 2050 AD, Blue Star was affected by the explosion of a supernova 500,000 light-years away and was struck by a global Cambrian storm. Temperatures plummeted, and in Tianhai City where I lived, the normal temperature was around -60 to 70 degrees. And the blizzard lasted for an entire month, burying the whole city. It was said that in the north, it even reached a terrifying -100 degrees or more, and the earth was completely entombed in ice and snow. Countless life forms went extinct on a massive scale, and more than 95% of humanity also died in this disaster. I stood up, took some water from the refrigerator, and drank it in big gulps. Although the water was ice cold, to me it was practically nectar. In the apocalypse, the only way to get water was to brave the extreme cold, go outside to dig up snow, and melt it, and that kind of work could easily freeze a person to death. After drinking the water, I picked up my phone and took a look. It showed the date, November 12th. There was exactly 1 month left until the apocalypse arrived. It seemed that I had been reborn. I took a deep breath and quickly understood what had happened. There was no way that month-long experience had been a dream, especially the pain of being dismembered by others. It was far too real. I raised my head, immensely grateful to have survived the catastrophe. At the same time, an incomparably sharp gleam flashed through my eyes. I remembered every single one of those people who had killed me back then. In this life, I will definitely live well and never again show kindness to those beasts. On the premise of ensuring my own safety, I must take brutal revenge on those beasts. But right now, the first thing I need to consider is how to survive the apocalypse that will arrive in a month. My own living conditions are fairly good. My parents passed away early on, and I inherited this 120 square meter apartment in Tianhai City, along with more than 2 million in savings. In ordinary times, that would count as fairly well off, but once the apocalypse arrives, there will be a massive shortage of supplies all over the world. Relying on this little money alone, I wouldn't last long at all. To survive, what I need is a vast amount of supplies. Given that I can prepare in advance, I don't just want to stay alive. I also hope to maintain a certain quality of life. Food and entertainment both have to be taken into account, otherwise my mind will definitely collapse over time. Weapons and equipment are also a must. Only then can I properly protect my own safety and carry out my revenge on the neighbors. Just then, a wisp of white light suddenly appeared before my eyes. I thought my right eye was playing tricks on me, so I reached up to rub it. But all of a sudden, a strange thought welled up in my mind, as if this wisp of white light itself were a part of me. And information about the white light also appeared in my mind. With a thought, my consciousness instantly entered that white light. But when I went in to take a look, This place turned out to be an incomparably huge expanse of blank whiteness, with no telling how vast the area inside was, just great stretches of emptiness. This is a different dimension? It seems that after being reborn, I gained some special abilities. Joy immediately surged in my heart. With this huge space, storing supplies for the apocalypse will be far more convenient. But I need to test exactly how much this space can hold, and whether there are any limits on taking in objects. My consciousness immediately returned to the room, and I began trying to put things from my home into the space. I started with a teacup and a wash basin, both of which went in with ease. Then I tried stuffing large household appliances into it. The color TV, refrigerator, washing machine, computer, air conditioner, vacuum cleaner. The white space accepted everything without complaint and took them all in. With just a thought, I could take things back out of the space. However, some objects that are under strong external force and do not exist independently are hard to take into the space. For example, when I tried to pry up a piece of flooring from the ground, there was no response at all. This different dimension seems to have many rules, and I'll need to explore them slowly. But this huge space that can store objects alone is enough to let me stockpile a massive amount of resources. I licked my lips, and a bold plan formed in my mind. My job is as a supervisor at the South China Regional Warehouse of Walmart. As the world's largest supermarket chain, Walmart has every kind of goods imaginable. In China, it has 3 giant warehouses in Central China, South China, and North China. The sheer size of these 3 warehouses is terrifying, especially the South China warehouse. Built in 2040, 1,500 meters long and 720 meters wide, covering an area of over 1 million square meters. The supplies it normally keeps inside are enough to support the weekly consumption of tens of millions of people in several cities. In other words, as long as I empty out all the supplies in this warehouse and move them into my space, forget 1 lifetime. Even 10 lifetimes wouldn't be enough to use up that much. Most importantly, Walmart's quality control is extremely strict, and there are no low-end off-brand goods in the warehouse. Whether food, daily necessities, or luxury goods, they're all major brands with solid reputations. If I can empty it out, not only will I have no need to worry about apocalypse supplies, I'll also be able to live extremely well. As the warehouse supervisor, I am intimately familiar with every shelf, surveillance device, and staff schedule in the warehouse. For me, clearing out the warehouse would definitely not be difficult. Once I made up my mind, I felt much more at ease. My stomach let out a protesting growl. I rubbed my belly and glanced at the braised chicken rice I had bought and set on the table. After hesitating for a moment, I finally smiled and shook my head, giving up on eating takeout. In another month, the apocalypse will be here. So I need to hurry up and eat lots of delicious things, or I won't get the chance later. Why keep being so stingy with myself? I endured a whole month of cold and hunger. At this moment, I was desperately hoping to eat some steaming hot, delicious food. What's the point of keeping money? After the apocalypse, it will all turn into waste paper anyway, so I might as well spend it all now so it won't go to waste. I turned away coolly, preparing to find an upscale restaurant I had never been willing to go to before and enjoy a hearty meal. Stepping out of my home, everything outside looked peaceful, full of the joy and ease of everyday life. Quite a few parents were playing with their children in the residential square, their faces full of happy smiles. But I knew that in another month, all of this would vanish like a bubble. I quickly walked out of the residential complex, and not far away there was a Michelin 3-star Western restaurant. A single meal there would cost at least $5,000 or $6,000, and in the past I had always been reluctant to go in. But now I didn't care at all. Having died and come back to life, I had to celebrate properly. Walking into the restaurant, I found a window seat and ordered every one of the most expensive dishes on the menu, and also asked for a bottle of Lafite red wine. After the whole set, 50,000 yuan was gone. Even the waiter's look toward me turned suggestive, thinking I must be some rich second-generation heir. I couldn't care less what others thought. As soon as a whole table of delicious dishes was served, I started stuffing my mouth. Perhaps because I had endured the torment of the frozen apocalypse. Eating such delicacies at this moment moved me so much I was almost in tears, and my table manners became a bit fierce, causing the diners around me to whisper among themselves. I couldn't care less about them. After all, once the apocalypse arrives, people could even kneel and kowtow for a packet of instant noodles. When that time comes, all civilization and morality will vanish like a bubble. Just as I was eating in the restaurant, a woman passing by outside the window stopped in her tracks. She had long flowing hair, exquisite makeup, and was wearing Gucci high heels, with an LV bag hanging from her arm. She was Fong Yuqing, the very woman who had killed me in my previous life. Her best friend Lin Canning was beside her. Whenever the two passed by a Michelin 3-star restaurant, they couldn't help but take a few extra glances. They had always longed for this kind of high-end luxury place, but unfortunately their funds didn't allow them to splurge. But that didn't stop them in the slightest from casting appraising looks inside, perhaps hoping to spot some eligible rich heir they could latch onto. As it happened, with that glance, Fang Yuqing was shocked to discover me inside, with a whole table of top-tier food laid out in front of me. "Isn't that Zhang Yi? How does he have money to eat here?" Fang Yuqing said in surprise. Lin Canning also covered her mouth in astonishment. "Is Zhang Yi actually this rich?" As she spoke, she gave Fang Yuqing a suggestive look and said with a smile, "Yuqing, you really are lucky. That simp chasing after you turns out to be a hidden rich second-generation heir. Look at that whole table of food. It's got to cost at least 50 or 60,000. What ordinary person could eat something this expensive in a single meal?" There was some envy in Lin Canning's tone. She knew I had been pursuing Fang Yuqing for 2.5 years, but Fang Yuqing had always kept me hanging, neither rejecting me nor agreeing to be with me. Fang Yuqing was a complete gold digger, always believing she could marry some elite rich second-generation heir and become a wealthy young mistress. But she was also unwilling to give up on someone like me, a white-collar with a car and a home in Tianhai City. So all along, Fang Yuqing had treated me as a backup. Her principle toward backups was not taking the initiative, not rejecting, and not taking responsibility. Today, seeing that I could actually enjoy a luxurious feast worth tens of thousands, all by myself, she couldn't help but start to wonder, could it be that Zhang Yi was actually a hidden rich second-generation heir? Fang Yuqing rested her chin on her hand and began to think. The more she thought about it, the more possible it seemed. Right? Don't TV dramas often have people like this? They're obviously very rich, but in order to find true love, they pretend to be ordinary people. Fang Yuqing talked herself into believing it, and her eyes lit up. If that were true, she could save herself a lot of trouble. After all, I've always been pursuing her, and she believed that as long as she nodded, I would immediately propose to her. Lin Canning also urged from the side, "Yuqing, let's go in and find Zhang Yi." In fact, she had her eye on that table full of delicious food. This is a Michelin 3-star restaurant, and ordinary people would never get the chance to taste a feast like that in their lifetime. Fang Yuqing hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. "That wouldn't be good, would it? He might think I'm a gold-digging woman. How about this? We'll wait outside and pretend we just ran into him by chance." Fang Yuqing wasn't stupid. She wouldn't lower herself just for a meal. Even if I really were rich, she still had to put on the airs of a goddess. Only then, if the two of us got together in the future, could she keep me firmly under control and make me continue being her simp. So the two of them hid not far from the restaurant and waited for me to come out. I ate for more than an hour, then happily patted my round belly. The food at a Michelin 3-star restaurant was actually just average, but for someone who had just been reborn from the apocalypse, it was already a delicacy moving enough to touch my heart. Next, I planned to go to a nearby supermarket to buy some supplies to take back. This was to test the storage capacity of the dimensional space, so there wouldn't be problems later. Although I was highly confident I could transport supplies back from the Walmart warehouse, it's always better to be safe than sorry. After all, I was someone who had gone hungry before, and I couldn't allow any accidents to happen. I paid the bill briskly and walked out of the restaurant entrance amid the attentive smiles of the waitstaff. Just then, a familiar voice sounded from the side. "Zhang Yi, what a coincidence." I turned my head and saw that it was Fang Yuqing and Lin Canning. Fang Yuqing reached up and tucked her hair behind her ear, deliberately revealing her fair neck and pink earlobe. I sneered inwardly. This kind of move was a classic trick of a manipulative tease, meant to make men fall for her without realizing it. A top-tier manipulative tease and White Lotus like Fang Yuqing naturally knew this game inside out. Unfortunately, I was no longer the simple simp I used to be. Not long ago, this woman had caused me to lose my life and die a miserable death. She had even wanted to break my ribs and boil them in a soup. At the thought of this, my gaze suddenly turned somewhat grim, filled with naked killing intent. In any case, the apocalypse would be here before long, so even if I killed her, there wouldn't be any problem. Should I stab her? Fang Yuqing felt a chill all over from my stare, and said nervously, "Zhang Yi, what's wrong?" I quickly withdrew my gaze and said flatly, "Nothing. I mistook you for someone else." I suddenly changed my mind. Wouldn't it be letting this woman off too easily if she just died like that? And if I really killed her now, I most likely wouldn't escape legal punishment. I had no desire to be stuck in a detention center when the apocalypse arrived. It would be better to let her experience the despair of the end times first, and then use my own methods to toy with her to death. Since I was the one with foresight, I had plenty of time to prepare, and with the memories from before my rebirth, I had 100 ways to make her die in agony. So for now, there was no need to deal with her. The most important thing at the moment was to build the safest shelter possible, so that I could survive the apocalypse safely and comfortably. My attitude toward Fong Yuqing was extremely cold. Fong Yuqing and Lin Caning also sensed that something was off. But after mistakenly thinking I was a hidden rich second-generation heir, not only were the two of them not angered by my attitude, they instead took the initiative to come closer. So what if rich people have a bit of a temper? That's called style. Hey, Zhang Yi, were you just eating at this restaurant? Lin Caning said in a deliberately casual tone. I frowned slightly. This woman wasn't any good either. She was cut from the same cloth as Fong Yuqing. Back then, when they cheated me out of my food and got me killed, she had a hand in it too. I replied coldly, then shoved my hands into my pockets, turned around, and headed for the supermarket. Fong Yuqing and Lin Caning hurriedly followed. Zhang Yi, where are you going? Fong Yuqing asked with a gentle smile. To the supermarket. My voice was still cold, with a hint of impatience. If I didn't want her to experience the despair of the apocalypse, I would have wanted to kill her on the spot. Fong Yuqing shot Lin Caning a look and quickly said, what a coincidence. We were planning to buy a few things too, so we're headed the same way. By now I already understood that they must have seen me having a big meal at a Michelin 3-star restaurant. So they mistakenly thought I was some kind of low-key rich second generation. That was why they had suddenly become so enthusiastic toward me. I couldn't be bothered to say anything to them and walked straight toward the supermarket. But the more I acted this way, the more Fong Yuqing and Lin Caning became convinced I was a rich second generation. Otherwise, what gave me the right to be so overbearing? The two of them walked beside me, and Fong Yuqing even pressed herself close to me, sometimes deliberately reaching out to brush against me. When I looked at her, she would put on a shy act and turn her head away, her face flushed as if she were bashful. I sneered inwardly. You scheming little flirt, you really can act. If you went into movies, you'd definitely win the Oscar for Best Actress. I entered the supermarket, grabbed a shopping cart, and walked inside. Fong Yuqing and Lin Caning also hurriedly pushed their carts after me. Zhang Yi, were you eating with someone? Fong Yuqing asked with a smile. I walked toward the food section and said coldly, can I eat by myself? Fong Yuqing's eyes lit up, and she quickly said, oh, that's not what I meant. It's just that the things in there are pretty expensive, so I thought maybe you were treating someone to dinner. Lin Caning couldn't help asking, Zhang Yi, your monthly salary is only a little over 10,000, right? One meal like that would eat up half a year of your salary. Looks like your family must have left you quite a lot of money. Fong Yuqing immediately shot Lin Caning a fierce glare. Idiot, how can you ask something like that so casually? For a top-tier scheming flirt, the most important rule is to talk about feelings with the rich and money with the poor. Lin Caning realized she had said the wrong thing and hurried to smooth it over. I was just joking. Actually, we're all good friends, so money really doesn't matter. I didn't pay them any attention at all. I came to the food section and looked at the dazzling array of goods on the shelves, as if I had entered a treasure vault. In my previous life, I had experienced what it felt like to make one pack of instant noodles last for 2 days. So when it came to food, I had an endless craving in my heart. I went straight to the shelves and swept the food on them into my cart. Ham sausages, instant noodles, self-heating hot pot, and seasonings. I bought them all in large quantities. This left Fong Yuqing and Lin Caning dumbfounded. Zhang Yi, why are you buying so much food? Are you going camping? I answered flatly. But Lin Caning grew suspicious and secretly whispered in Fong Yuqing's ear. Would a rich second generation eat this stuff when camping? Fong Yuqing was a little puzzled too, but when she thought of that Michelin 3-star feast, she still didn't want to give up the idea that I was a rich second generation. She ran up in front of me and said eagerly, do you need any help? With free labor delivering itself to my door, there was no reason not to use it. And looking at Fong Yuqing's fake, innocent smile, a thought of revenge also arose in my heart. I still had 1 month to prepare for the coming apocalypse, and it wouldn't be difficult to build a perfect shelter to ensure my safety. As for living supplies, I could also obtain them through the Walmart warehouse. That way, I could ensure that I would be in a state of absolute safety and live in comfort during the apocalypse. Rather than that, I might as well deliberately let Fong Yuqing know that I had stockpiled supplies. Let her come to me crying and begging when the time comes. As for Fong Yuqing leaking my information and drawing those bastard neighbors to besiege me, that's easy enough to solve too. As long as my safe house is built strong enough, Not only will I not need to worry about being besieged, I can even effectively strike back at them instead. Just thinking of how furious and helpless they'd be against me. The smile at the corner of my mouth turned a little twisted. This really is an option worth considering. I plan to go look for a security company later and build a safe house like that. If it works, I'll use this plan. If not, I'll stay away from the city and find some remote wilderness to build an underground shelter, making preparations on two fronts. The corner of my mouth curved up, then helped me push the carts. Fang Yuqing hurriedly nodded in agreement. I also told Lin Caning to go get another cart. Although both women were full of suspicion, they still did as told. I bought quite a lot of food that could be stored, including instant noodles, sausages, as well as cured meat and canned food. I also used one cart specifically for fresh meat, fruits and vegetables, and live fish, wanting to test whether the dimensional space had any special effect on storing fresh produce. The 3 shopping carts were packed full, and I specifically handed the cart loaded with beef, lamb, and canned food to the 2 women to push. At least 400 to 500 jin, making them sweat profusely from exhaustion. Fang Yuqing complained a little, pouting as she said, "Zhang Yi, how many people would it take to eat all this stuff? Is there some event you're not telling me about?" I let out a cold laugh and said, "You never know what might happen. What if the apocalypse comes one day? I'm stocking up on more things to get by." Everything I said was the plain truth, but no one would possibly believe it. On this point, a certain Dr. Li had already proven it once before. Fang Yuqing just thought I was joking, and burst out laughing. "Oh, come on. If you don't want to say, then forget it. Why make a joke like that? But I helped you out so much today, so you have to treat me to a meal later." Fang Yuqing's eyes were full of suggestion. She was hoping I would take her to a Michelin 3-star restaurant for a meal. The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. Sure. But I've been pretty busy lately and don't really have time, so next month. Fang Yuqing said happily. "All right, it's a deal." Lin Caning quickly chimed in. Yay, let's go together, hee hee." Just helping push a cart was enough to earn a fancy meal, so of course she was thrilled. Seeing how tactless Lin Caning was, Fang Yuqing shot her another glare, but Lin Caning just pretended not to notice. I went to pay for everything. This shopping trip cost over 10,000, and I paid without even blinking. You had to know that in the apocalypse, the value of these supplies would increase by at least tens of thousands of times. You could even say they were priceless, because by then, no matter how much money you had, you might not be able to buy even a bite to eat. Since I bought so many things, the supermarket readily lent me the shopping carts to use. I unceremoniously ordered the 2 women around and had them help me push the things home. Actually, I had a car and could have driven the stuff back myself, but with free labor available, not using it would be a waste. Although the 2 women kept complaining that they were tired, once I promised to treat them to a big meal afterward, they immediately became motivated. So the 3 of us pushed 3 large carts of supplies back to the residential complex. Zhang Yi and the other 2 pushed 3 large carts of supplies back to the residential complex. Along the way, many neighbors saw the scene and couldn't help discussing it. Zhang Yi no longer cared about being discovered stockpiling supplies. After all, those 2 scheming women knew about his shopping, so there was no way the news could stay hidden anymore. If he only wanted to survive, he could completely sell off all his assets, and then run off to a desolate place to build an impregnable fortress. But if he did that, how would he take revenge on the neighbors who had chopped him to pieces alive in his previous life? Unless he kills all those people, Zhang Yi's trauma will never go away. So one of his plans for the apocalypse is to stay in this residential complex and take revenge on everyone who wronged him in another cruel way. Of course, the prerequisite for this plan is that the security company must be capable of building him an impregnable shelter. Otherwise, he will have to make a backup plan, which is to build an underground shelter in a deserted place. Zhang Yi looked at the neighbors around him, who were smiling and chatting about why he had bought so many supplies. He could already picture the scene in the apocalypse, when these neighbors would try to storm into his home and snatch his things. He had truly lived through all of this before, but he was not afraid, because in this life, he would prepare in advance. He wanted those people to be able to see it but not eat it, until they were furious half to death. Zhang Yi and Fang Yuqing lived in the same apartment building. Because Zhang Yi worked in management at Walmart's warehouse, the neighbors often asked him to help them buy discounted goods. Therefore, everyone knew Zhang Yi. Seeing the 3 of them bring back so many things, an older woman who had come out to play with her grandson walked over. She looked at the food in the carts, as well as the fresh beef and mutton, and was immediately tempted. "Xiaozhang, how did you bring back so many things? Were these cleared out from the warehouse? There's no way you can use all this up, so why not share some with the neighbors?" This was Andy Lin, who worked for the homeowners committee and usually threw her weight around in the complex because she had a bit of authority, often ordering the neighbors about and acting like she was a leader. In the past, she had often asked Zhang Yi to help her buy cheap discounted goods, and she was extremely fond of taking petty advantage. And in his previous life, she had also relied on shameless pestering to get some food from Zhang Yi. But when all the neighbors rushed to Zhang Yi's home to loot it, not only did she not stop them, she was even more energetic than the young people. Fang Yuqing and Lin Kaining also did not want to provoke this woman, and quickly said, "These things were all bought by Zhang Yi. We only helped him bring them back." Auntie Lin's eyes immediately turned to Zhang Yi, and she said with a smile, "Xiao Zhang, it looks like these are things from your warehouse. How about giving Auntie Lin some?" As she spoke, her grandson Xiaohu had already climbed onto one of the handcarts and reached out to grab a box of chocolates. He might have been young, but he had a very vicious eye for things. That box of imported chocolates sold for over 200 at the supermarket. Without a word, Zhang Yi snatched it right back. Then he said coldly to Auntie Lin, "Sorry, I'm keeping these things for myself to eat." Anyway, the apocalypse was coming soon, so he could not even be bothered to pretend to be polite anymore. Auntie Lin's expression suddenly changed. Zhang Yi's complete lack of regard for this so-called leader of the complex made her very angry. Especially after her grandson Xiaohu was shoved aside by Zhang Yi, he began crying and making a scene, demanding chocolate. He even pointed at Zhang Yi and cursed with a face full of hatred. "You bad guy, give me back the chocolate now, or I'll beat you to death." Zhang Yi looked at him coldly and said in a deep voice, "Say one more word and I'll slap your mouth." Lin Xiaohu was frightened by Zhang Yi and immediately burst into loud tears, sitting down on the ground and throwing a tantrum. Auntie Lin hurried to comfort her grandson, then angrily began blaming Zhang Yi. "You're a grown man. How can you still argue with a child? Isn't it just a box of chocolates? What's wrong with giving it to a child to eat? How about this? Just give him a box of chocolates. Consider it bought by me. I'll give you the money later. It's not like anyone wants to take advantage of you." But Zhang Yi merely curled his lip. These days, with mobile payment, paying was incredibly convenient. Her talk of paying him later obviously meant she wanted to stiff him. "I said it already, this is for me to eat. If you want some, go buy it at the supermarket yourself." Zhang Yi let out a cold sneer, then called to Fang Yuqing and Lin Kaining and left. As soon as they walked away, angry cursing from Auntie Lin came from behind them. Zhang Yi turned a deaf ear. Auntie Lin's son and daughter-in-law worked outside, so she alone stayed home taking care of her grandson. The old woman usually only bought enough groceries for one day at a time. So after the apocalypse arrived, their family supplies were the first to run out. Back then, Zhang Yi had softened and helped them. But in this life, without Zhang Yi's help, it would be a miracle if that immoral old woman and her naughty grandson Xiaohu could survive even 10 days. Zhang Yi had no interest in getting upset with corpses. It wasn't that he was heartless, but once that day arrived, it would already be difficult enough for everyone just to look after themselves. Naturally, whether other people lived or died had to come after him. After pushing all 3 cartloads of supplies back home, Zhang Yi had them leave. "Zhang Yi, don't forget you still owe us a treat." Fang Yuqing blinked playfully at Zhang Yi. But when Zhang Yi saw it, all he felt was a wave of nausea in his heart. He brushed her off. The two women had originally planned to stay and look for clues that Zhang Yi was a hidden rich second-generation heir. But seeing that Zhang Yi looked in no mood to entertain them, the two could only leave first. After they left, Zhang Yi opened his pocket dimension and stored everything inside. He planned to observe whether these supplies would undergo any changes after being placed in the space. After doing all this, it was already very late. Zhang Yi did not rush to rest, but instead took out pen and paper and carefully planned the preparations for the next month. Although he was usually rather lazy, when it came to staying alive, people could always unleash enough potential. If he wanted to live comfortably through the apocalypse, the first thing to settle was food, and that was easy enough to solve. Aside from the things I buy for daily use, everything else can be taken from the warehouse. But there was no need to rush this. He had to investigate first, and he should only take it a few days before the apocalypse to avoid attracting attention. If he got caught and locked up, he definitely wouldn't last more than a few days in jail. Zhang Yi wrote down the word food in his notebook and put a check mark after it. Next was heating. After the apocalypse, the energy supply would be extremely scarce, and air conditioning would soon become unusable. In that case, he would have to use the simplest method. A fireplace was the first choice. The principle behind a fireplace was similar to a heated brick bed. Both used primitive methods for warmth. Winters in Europe are especially cold, and people rely on this method to get through the long winter. In that case, the house would have to be renovated again, preferably with an insulating thermal layer added. At the mention of renovation, Zhang Yi thought of how in his previous life his home had been broken into by force, and his heart tightened. I also need to turn my home into an impregnable steel fortress. First, install thick steel plates or alloy materials throughout the house, at the very least enough to withstand ordinary explosions. After the apocalypse arrives, people will do anything to survive. So every possible precaution must be taken. He could not joke around with his own safety. Zhang Yi had already tasted death once, and he absolutely did not want to experience it a second time. The issue of a safe house was also easy to solve. Tianxi City had security companies that specialized in providing security services for the powerful and wealthy. Among them were services for building safe rooms. Zhang Yi remembered seeing news about it in his previous life. Saying that abroad, a top-tier tycoon had built a super fortress that could even withstand the attack of a small H weapon. Then there were medicines. I must prevent myself from falling ill and being unable to get treatment. There were many common medicines in Walmart's warehouse, enough to treat minor illnesses like colds and fevers. But those were far from enough. The Cambrian storm would last at least several decades. I need to make thorough preparations. Fortunately, Zhang Yi has quite a few connections in Tianxi City. After all, since he works in warehouse management, he also knows some staff who work in hospital warehousing. As long as he could pay enough money, he could get any medicine. After resolving these issues, Zhang Yi tapped the notebook with the ballpoint pen in his hand. Next, there was one last problem to solve. His gaze sharpened. That was weapons. When the apocalypse arrives and humanity loses its morals, fights over supplies will be everywhere. Human life will be as cheap as grass. If you want to survive, you must have enough force. Zhang Yi was no martial arts master. But no matter how skilled you are, you still fear a cleaver. As long as the weapons he prepared were strong enough, he wouldn't need to worry about that. Machetes, crowbars, and felling axes were easy enough to get. There were also channels for crossbows, air guns, and compound bows. But the most powerful of all was, of course, American-style quick draw. This thing could only be obtained through the black market in China. Go abroad to get it? That wasn't realistic either. He didn't know anyone out there, and one round trip would take many days. I don't have a foreign gun license, and there's no way I could buy one from a weapons store. Zhang Yi stroked his chin. There was no way to solve this problem for the time being. But he still had a month. As long as he was willing to spend money, he should be able to find a way. He spent 3 hours devising the perfect plan, then took a satisfying hot shower and lay down on his comfortable bed, falling asleep. Early the next morning, Zhang Yi climbed out of bed. He hadn't slept particularly well that night, waking up several times from nightmares. After waking up, he found that he was still lying in the warm, comfortable bed at home, and only then did he let out a long sigh of relief. That period during the apocalypse had caused tremendous psychological trauma. To avoid repeating the same mistakes, Zhang Yi became even more determined to make foolproof preparations. After getting up, Zhang Yi made himself breakfast. Then he opened the alternate space to check the changes in the supplies he had thrown inside. To his delight, the meat, fruit, and vegetables that had been left there overnight had not changed in the slightest. It was hard to tell with meat in such a short time, but fruit and vegetables usually lose freshness after being left overnight. Yet after being placed in the alternate space, those fruits and vegetables were exactly the same as when he had bought them yesterday. My alternate space exists independently of this world. Perhaps the rules governing the passage of time there are different too. It's possible that time moves more slowly there, or is even completely still. This was terrific news. That way, I could store all kinds of things inside without any worries. However, when Zhang Yi checked the few fish he had put inside, he found that they were all dead. After dying, they still looked lifelike, and there were no signs of spoilage. Stroking his chin, Zhang Yi came to understand a bit more about the rules for using the alternate space. Living things can't be stored inside, or rather, even if they are put inside, they can't survive for long. It seems my idea of living inside it myself isn't very realistic. That's not really a big problem, though. The inside of the alternate space was a vast expanse of whiteness anyway. How could it compare to the comfort of Zhang Yi's own home? As long as he could store things inside, that was enough. Thinking this, all sorts of ideas appeared in Zhang Yi's mind. Since it could preserve fresh meat, vegetables, and fruit, what about cooked food? Although Zhang Yi could cook for himself, he was ultimately still far behind a professional chef. If he could only rely on himself to cook in the future, he would get tired of it sooner or later. So Zhang Yi immediately called Hongfu Tianxia, the largest 5-star hotel in Tianxi City. This hotel also offered delivery, and the quality and taste of their food were first-rate. Zhang Yi loved eating it. "Hello, this is Hongfu Tianxia Hotel. How may I help you?" Zhang Yi immediately said, "I'm inviting guests over to my home and hosting a flowing banquet for 3 days and 3 nights. So I need to book 500 tables of dishes." The person on the other end of the phone was also taken aback. 500 tables of dishes would take them quite a long time to prepare. Besides, they were a 5-star hotel, and even the cheapest banquet table would cost 3,000 to 4,000. For 500 tables, that would be more than 1 million. The receptionist didn't dare make the decision on her own and quickly said, "Please wait a moment. I'll go ask our manager." After a while, someone else took the phone. "Hello, sir. I'm Chen Dingfang, the manager of Hongfu Hotel. May I ask how I should address you?" Zhang Yi replied, "My name is Zhang Yi. About my order for 500 banquet tables. Do you have any problem with that?" The manager was startled. Since the hotel opened, this was the first time they had encountered something like this. But with such a huge order, they would definitely take it if it came. "Mr. Zhang, 500 banquet tables will cost over 1 million. If you need them, we'll start preparing immediately, but you'll need to send a 200,000 deposit in advance." Zhang Yi replied, "No problem. Send me your account information later, and I'll transfer the money." Once there was money involved, things naturally became easier to handle. The manager readily agreed, then added Zhang Yi as a friend, and sent him the bank account number. Zhang Yi transferred the 200,000 without hesitation. After the manager confirmed with finance that the deposit had arrived, he immediately began instructing the various departments. "Quick, quick, quick. We've got a big order. Tell the purchasing department to stock up right away, and the kitchen should stop taking any other takeout orders for now. Within 1 day, we have to prepare the 500 banquet tables the customer wants." On the other side, after hanging up, Zhang Yi couldn't help sighing. "Although money will be useless in a month, I still need money to buy things right now." In his hands, the inheritance left by his parents plus his own savings totaled only about 2 million. Just like that, half of it was gone. To be honest, it still hurt a little. But on second thought, this was also a good thing. Many people held on to piles of money, only for it to later turn into waste paper. Not everyone has the chance to actually spend their money. However, there are still many places where I'll need money next, so I need to find a way to get more. Zhang Yi's eyes immediately fell on his own home. This apartment was located in the central ring of Tianhai City, with an area of 120 square meters, and the residential complex had been built 10 years ago. At the current market rate, each square meter would cost more than 40,000. In other words, this apartment was now worth at least more than 5 million. Got it. I can go get a mortgage loan, and then I'll have money, right? Zhang Yi chuckled, feeling indescribably comfortable at the thought that after borrowing this money, he wouldn't have to pay it back. He immediately left home, got in his car, and drove to the bank to apply for a loan. On the way, he received a message from Fang Yuqing. "Zhang Yi, the weekend is so boring. I really wish someone could go out and wander around with me." Zhang Yi glanced at it and tossed his phone aside. He arrived at the bank and started handling the loan procedures. Because Zhang Yi's loan amount was large, his documents were complete, and the house had been fully paid for, the loan was approved quickly. However, the bank only gave him a 4 million loan. Zhang Yi didn't haggle either. It was money that had basically come for free anyway, and he had no time to argue with the bank. After signing, without hesitation, the bank transferred the money into his account as well. Now then, after taking out the more than 1 million spent on the banquet, I still have about 5 million left in my hands. That should be enough to renovate the house. However, I still need to buy large quantities of medicine and weapons. This money may not be enough. Zhang Yi stroked his chin and began thinking about how to get even more money. Just then, a blonde-haired punk by the roadside noticed Zhang Yi deep in thought, his eyes lighting up as he immediately walked over. "Hey, buddy, need money?" Zhang Yi looked up at the blonde-haired punk. "Who are you?" The smile on the punk's face deepened. He lowered his voice and asked, "Let me ask you this. Do you need money right now, and the bank won't lend it to you?" The moment Zhang Yi heard that, he understood what the man in front of him did. Definitely a loan shark. Zhang Yi's heart stirred, and a plan came to mind. He sighed and said with a troubled look, "Yeah, my family business urgently needs cash flow. But the bank..." At that point, Zhang Yi deliberately showed an awkward expression. The blonde-haired guy instantly looked like he understood. If it were possible through normal channels, who would go borrow from a loan shark instead of getting money from the bank? He said to Zhang Yi, "Exactly, banks are really strict about lending these days. All kinds of rules and restrictions, and the money comes through slowly too. But brother, if you urgently need money, I can help you with that." Zhang Yi looked at the blonde-haired guy cautiously. You? Can you really do it? I need several million. Hearing that it was a big deal, the blonde-haired guy's eyes clearly grew more excited. He took a business card out of his pocket and handed it to Zhang Yi. Our company specializes in the kind of business that saves people in desperate situations. As long as you need money, you can't go wrong with us. Zhang Yi glanced at it. The card read Duo Loan Financial Services Company, Limited, and the blonde-haired guy's title was Business Manager Hu Minghua. Zhang Yi said excitedly, You really can lend me money? I need 5 million. As long as you can help me get through this difficult time, I guarantee I can pay it back in 3 months at most. Hu Minghua smiled and said, This is something we can discuss. Our company is very strong. We specialize in helping people like you who are short on funds. Come on, let's go to the company and talk this over slowly. With an eager expression on his face, Zhang Yi nodded and followed Hu Minghua to their company. The so-called company was in a remote office building. After they entered, Hu Minghua took Zhang Yi to their boss's office. The owner of this lending company looked big and burly, yet he was wearing a designer band Nilu suit. He was clearly trying hard to create the image of a legitimate company, but there was still a trace of viciousness between his brows. If he hadn't struggled in society for many years, he wouldn't have had that kind of air about him. Hu Minghua introduced Zhang Yi's basic situation to the boss in front of him. Manager, this is a customer who wants to borrow money from us. The boss was named Chen Xiong. After seeing Zhang Yi, he smiled and invited him to sit down. Mr. Zhang, how much would you like to borrow? As expected of a loan shark company, the conversation was that simple and direct. A company like this was not legitimate to begin with, so there were not so many rules and restrictions. And they had plenty of ways to make you repay the money. So they were not worried about you defaulting at all. Zhang Yi said, I want to borrow 5 million. Chen Xiong frowned. Oh, that's not a small amount. But Mr. Zhang, let me say this first. Our interest is very high. You should be mentally prepared. Hu Minghua said from the side, Mr. Zhang's business urgently needs working capital. Once the business gets back on track, won't this money be earned back very quickly? Right. The two of them were playing off each other, and Zhang Yi saw it all clearly. Still pretending to be anxious, Zhang Yi said, Yeah, I'll be able to repay it soon. If the interest is high, then so be it. As long as you can lend me the money. A smile appeared on Chen Xiong's face. Good. Our interest rate is for fun. If you borrow 5 million, when you repay it, you'll have to pay back 7 million. So first, you need to write me an IOU for 7 million. Also, you must have something valuable enough to use as collateral. A house, a factory, a car, all are acceptable. Zhang Yi pretended to hesitate for a moment, then gritted his teeth and took out his property ownership certificate. He had brought it to the bank to apply for a loan, and just happened to have it on him. My house is worth more than 5 million, so that should be enough as collateral for you, right? I also have a Mercedes worth 300,000. If I can't repay it when the time comes, you can take that too. It was Chen Xiong's first time meeting such a straightforward client, and he quickly took the property ownership certificate to look it over. After confirming the details of Zhang Yi's house, he felt even more satisfied inside. Because at the current market price, that house could be sold for at least 5.5 million. Add a car on top of that, and there was no way he could lose money on this deal. However, Chen Xiong still put on a somewhat dissatisfied expression. Mr. Zhang, your house is worth at most 4 to 5 million. But if you want to take 5 million from me, I'll be taking a bit of a loss. Zhang Yi looked shocked and said excitedly, Boss Chen, you must help me. I urgently need money right now. As long as you can transfer the money to me today, I'll be fine with just 4.5 million. Chen Xiong and Hu Minghua exchanged a glance, their eyes full of mockery. Their business was to take advantage of people in desperate situations. The more urgently people needed money, the more ruthlessly they would fleece them. No, this deal really isn't worth it. In the end, after a round of haggling, the two sides reached an agreement at 4 million. However, Zhang Yi demanded that the money had to be transferred into his account today. Although the lending company was black-hearted, its efficiency was genuinely high. This was probably the only area where they had an advantage over banks. After signing the contract, Zhang Yi's account very quickly received 4 million in cash. He secretly laughed to himself. To Chen Xiong, this money was like throwing a meat bun to a dog. Gone for good. Why does that feel a bit like insulting myself? Zhang Yi left with the money, all smiles. After he left, hearty laughter from Chen Xiong and Hu Minghua came from inside the office. This deal was really easy. That idiot really just took the 4 million and left. Chen Xiong said smugly, we can make at least 2 to 3 million from this one. We won't have to worry about this month's performance anymore. leaning against the desk, Hu Minghua laughed and said, "Boss, he signed the contract so readily. Could there be something wrong with that house?" Holding the property ownership certificate in his hand, Chen Xiong said with a smile, "This property ownership certificate is real, no problem. As long as the house is his, he won't be able to get away. With the property ownership certificate and that 7 million IOU in their hands, they would naturally have ways to get that house. More than that, they had even more ways to squeeze Zhang Yi dry completely." Chen Xiong narrowed his eyes and elegantly took a sip of coffee. If it really came down to it, they could contact a few overseas organizations and see whether there were any valuable parts on him they could sell. "We never do business at a loss." Zhang Yi happily left the lending company. He turned back to glance at the office building, a faint trace of mockery at the corner of his mouth. They were all such good people, giving me money for free to spend. From now on, Zhang Yi and Chen Xiong and Hu Minghua would have no further dealings with each other. Or rather, there was a high probability they would all die in the apocalyptic cold wave a month later. Zhang Yi now had about 9 million in funds in hand. It was completely enough to carry out his plan. After all, when purchasing any goods next, he could pay by using the method of paying a deposit in advance. These 9 million would have the purchasing power of tens of millions. There was no need to get any more money. Otherwise, Zhang Yi wouldn't have minded milking various online lending platforms for a wave. Driving his car, Zhang Yi arrived at the famous Battle Dragon security company in Tianhai City. Battle Dragon was one of the largest security companies in China, specializing in providing security services for the very rich and for celebrities. Sometimes, even some high-level official figures would ask them for assistance when traveling. The reason Zhang Yi sought them out was because in his previous life he had heard that Battle Dragon Company had built for the son of the richest man in Jiangnan province a top-tier safe house worth $1 billion. It was said that family had made its start in real estate, and that second-generation rich heir was still able to live very comfortably in the apocalypse. And the safe house built for them by Zhanglong Company deserved much of the credit. Zhang Yi came to Zhanglong Company and explained his purpose to the receptionist. Someone from the business department immediately invited Zhang Yi to a lounge. The female receptionist served Zhang Yi a cup of freshly ground coffee. Not long after, a burly man with a broad build and a buzz cut walked in. He was wearing a black suit and gave off the vibe of a thug in a suit. It made people worry at any moment that his clothes might burst apart. But it had to be said that seeing someone like this would fill clients with a sense of security. "Hello, sir. My name is Wu Huiran, manager of the business department. How may we assist you?" Wu Huiran asked as he sat beside Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi took a sip of coffee and said, "I need you to build a safe house for me. The highest level kind of safe house, one that can withstand the apocalypse." Hearing this, Wu Huiran's expression immediately turned serious. If other people heard such words, they would find them ridiculous. After all, no one would believe in any so-called apocalypse. But to Zhanglong Company, this was no joke. Because the richest and most powerful people in the world were often also the most afraid of death. Long ago, some ultra-wealthy people overseas were already willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build apocalypse shelters. In recent years, many wealthy people around the world have begun to follow this trend. Some people might truly fear encountering large-scale natural disasters. Others simply have too many enemies in their daily lives, so they hope to give themselves a greater sense of security. And so Zhanglong Security Company's apocalypse safe houses naturally came into being in response to market demand. When Wu Huiran heard that Zhang Yi wanted to build an apocalypse-level safe house, he immediately became more courteous. They only got a few big orders like this each year. "Mr. Zhang, we at Zhanglong are a world-class security company. We can definitely meet your requirements." Zhang Yi immediately said, "If I ask you to completely renovate an entire residence at the height of the 24th floor, can you do it?" Wu Huiran's gaze turned somewhat strange. Usually, this kind of safe house is a detached villa or an underground shelter. Very few wealthy people would choose to build a safe house inside an apartment. But since the client had made the request, their company would of course fulfill it. Wu Huiran smiled confidently. "Of course that's not a problem. We at Zhanglong are a world top security company. With our technology, we can absolutely achieve what you require." Hearing Wu Huiran say this, Zhang Yi also made up his mind. In that case, he would choose to turn his own home into a safe house. His choice to stay meant he wanted to witness with his own eyes how those who had harmed him would die. Wu Huiran took out a tablet and handed it to Zhang Yi. "Our company's services are all privately customized. You can choose the services you need from here. The corresponding prices are also listed above. In the information age, communication really is convenient." Zhang Yi took the tablet he handed over and began carefully selecting the services on it. It had to be said that a professional company truly was a professional company. As long as you have the money, Zhanglong Security Company can satisfy almost any request you have, including building safe houses 100 meters underground or on the seabed. However, these projects would take too long for Zhang Yi, and he only had 1 month. After reading the introduction to the safe houses, Zhang Yi immediately selected the service items he wanted. First was full house reinforcement, replacing the materials throughout their home. The walls, ceiling, and floor would all use 200 mm thick alloy, directly replacing the original walls. This was an aerospace material, weighing only 1/3 as much as steel, yet 10 times stronger than refined steel. Using this material to build a safe house, it could be embedded into the building where Zhang Yi lived without causing any load-bearing overload issues. The window glass would use the best bulletproof glass in the world today. Secondly, the ventilation system would all be fitted with air filtration functions. No harmful gases would be able to invade from outside. Finally, there would also be a complete surveillance system, which could monitor the inside and outside of the house in all directions with no blind spots. And all the doors would be replaced with heavy anti-theft doors made of the same material as bank vaults. Even small bombs would have a hard time blowing them open. In short, Zhang Yi had only one requirement. That was to turn his house into an absolutely impregnable iron turtle shell. After checking off all these options, Zhang Yi handed the computer to Wu Huiren. After Wu Huiren looked it over, he couldn't help widening his eyes as well. A house of only 120 square meters, yet built like an iron barrel. Add weapons, and this would practically be a fortress, Wu Huiren muttered. Hearing this, a glint flashed through Zhang Yi's eyes. Oh, do you know a thing or two about fortresses too? Wu Huiren chuckled. I used to be a mercenary abroad, so I know these military matters like the back of my hand. A flash of inspiration crossed Zhang Yi's mind. He suddenly lowered his voice and said to Wu Huiren, "Then do you have a way to get guns?" Those words made Wu Huiren's expression turn serious as well. In Hua country, firearms are not allowed to be privately owned. Mr. Zhang, you should understand that, in principle, that sort of thing is not permitted for private ownership. Wu Huiren also said in a low voice, "Have you run into some terrifying enemy to make you this afraid?" Zhang Yi went along with it. "That's right, I offended some underworld people, and they act very ruthlessly, and they have guns in their hands. So I was thinking, could I get some guns too for self-defense? Otherwise I can only hide in the house and take the beating, and that's no solution." Wu Huiren chuckled. "Mr. Zhang, I'm afraid I can't help you with this sort of matter. We are a legitimate company." But from Wu Huiren's eyes, Zhang Yi could tell. It wasn't that he couldn't get guns, but that he was unwilling to wade into muddy waters. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Then he said to Wu Huiren, "This safe room project I'm doing is going to cost more than 8 million. If something still happens to me afterward, it won't reflect too well on your company either." He stared at Wu Huiren and said word by word, "I just want something for self-defense. If you can do me this favor, I won't treat you unfairly." Wu Huiren said nothing. He furrowed his brows, weighing the matter. He naturally had connections, but he wasn't clear on Zhang Yi's background, so of course he didn't dare casually make introductions for him. "You should go back first. Although I can't do this myself, I can help you ask around. If there happens to be any news, I'll contact you again." Wu Huiren was obviously unable to make up his mind for the moment. But Zhang Yi didn't press too hard either. Things like guns really did require caution. He smiled and said, "All right, then I'll wait for your news. By the way, I'm in a hurry about this matter, so please help me build the safe room as soon as possible." Wu Huiren said, "At most half a month. We can finish building it for you." After Zhang Yi finished talking with Wu Huiren, he signed the contract on the spot. Likewise, he paid a deposit of 1 million. As for the remaining balance, there would be no chance to pay it in this lifetime. After leaving Zhanglong Security Company, the housing issue was basically resolved. Next, Zhang Yi returned to the car and called an acquaintance of his, Liu Yang. Liu Yang operated a hunting ground in Tianhai City. He had contracted several hundred mu of land in West Mountain, where he kept all kinds of harmless small animals, normally for people to go in and hunt for entertainment. In his possession, he had many legally obtained crossbows, compound bows, and air guns. Zhang Yi had gone there to play a few times before, so he had Liu Yang's contact information. He called Liu Yang and asked him to buy a batch for him, and said he was willing to pay a premium. Liu Yang was a businessman, and besides, he would occasionally need to ask Zhang Yi for favors, so he readily agreed to it. "Brother Zhang, what are you buying so many weapons for? These things can only be used for hunting, or just for your own amusement. You can't use them to hurt people." Liu Yang asked with a smile, though there was a hint of caution in his words. After all, the goods were being sold through him. If Zhang Yi ended up using these weapons to hurt someone, he would be in trouble too. Of course, anyone who could open a hunting ground in Tianhai City naturally had connections, but there was no need for him to take risks over an ordinary friend like Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi laughed and casually made up an excuse. You're overthinking it. I made plans with a few friends to go hunting at a wildlife park in Africa after a while, so I'm getting some extra gear. Liu Yang clicked his tongue twice. Yo, brother Zhang really knows how to have fun, but Africa has quite a few lions and hyenas, so be careful. Then it's settled. How long will it take you to get the stuff ready for me? I already have stock on hand here. Just come by and pick it up when you have time. Zhang Yi didn't dawdle either, and immediately drove to the Xishan hunting ground to buy the items and bring them back. For him, time was extremely precious now, and not a moment could be wasted. He bought 5 refined steel crossbows and 3 high-end compound bows from Liu Yang, and purchased 300 arrows and 300 bolts for each respectively. In addition, he also bought 2 excellent hunting knives. These were forged from Damascus steel, extremely tough and sharp. Unless they were used for long-term chopping against hard objects, they were very hard to damage. This thing was absolutely efficient for self-defense, chopping people. All of it filled an entire trunk to the brim. Looking at this large pile of equipment, Zhang Yi immediately felt a strong sense of security in his heart. He then hauled a carload of equipment back home. Since everything had been purchased through legitimate channels, and he himself had gotten a hunting license back when he took up the hobby, he wasn't worried about being questioned by the police. By the time he got home, it was already dusk. Zhang Yi went out again and enjoyed a hot pot meal by himself at Haidaleo, thinking that he would have to make hot pot himself in the future. He immediately paid and ordered 10,000 portions of hot pot base from Haidaleo. The Haidaleo staff were dumbfounded and thought Zhang Yi was from a rival business, there to cause trouble. Fortunately, Haidaleo's service was good enough that they didn't fall out with Zhang Yi on the spot. Later, the store manager came over, asked Zhang Yi a few questions, and accepted the order. However, the condition was payment in cash to prevent Zhang Yi from being a rival merchant trying to sabotage them. Zhang Yi was very straightforward and directly paid more than $1 million on the spot. Such a generous display immediately made the store manager grin from ear to ear, and he even threw in 500 extra portions for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi left his address and asked the Haidaleo staff to deliver the hot pot base there later. As for the food ingredients, he could just take them directly from Walmart's warehouse when the time came. Only the hot pot base was something they would never really put up for sale, and even the bagged hot pot seasoning available on the market was actually far inferior to what the restaurant used. Otherwise, customers wouldn't bother going to the restaurant to eat hot pot. After dinner, just as Zhang Yi was getting ready to go home, he received a call on his phone from the manager of a 5-star hotel. Mr. Zhang, the 500 banquet tables you ordered are ready. May I ask if it's convenient for you to receive them now? Just deliver them over. Zhang Yi returned home and waited for them to bring over all the delicious food and drink. These 500 banquet tables were enough for him to eat for 2 or 3 years. In any case, he still had 8 or 9 million on hand, so he felt no pain at all spending money now. Instead, he was anxious to spend it all. On the way back, Zhang Yi thought about what else he liked to eat. So he placed orders with several major restaurants in Tianhai City as well, asking each of them to deliver 100 tables worth of dishes to him. The 8 great cuisines, including Western food, added up to several thousand tables in total. With this, it basically covered all his meals for the next half of his life. Not long after, the catering trucks from Hongfu Tianxia Grand Hotel arrived at the entrance of Yuelu Residential Complex. In a mighty procession of 20 to 30 vehicles, they blocked the road so tightly that not even water could get through, leaving the neighbors in the complex dumbfounded. Security guard Uncle Yu hurried forward to stop them and asked what they were there for. The hotel manager explained the situation, but Uncle Yu still insisted that the resident had to come over before he would open the gate. After all, their convoy was too large, and who knew what was inside the vehicles? So for the safety of the complex, he couldn't just let them through. The hotel manager had no choice but to call Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi then went downstairs and came to the entrance of the complex. By this time, the entrance was packed with people, including neighbors from the apartment building, as well as Fang Yuqing and Lin Caning, who had come to watch the excitement. Zhang Yi walked up to security guard Uncle Yu and said with a smile, "Uncle Yu, these people are here to deliver food to me. Let them in." Uncle Yu looked astonished. "Deliver food? What on earth are you eating that it takes more than a dozen vehicles to deliver it?" When the surrounding neighbors heard that they were catering trucks, an uproar broke out as well. Good grief. This has got to be at least several hundred tables, right? Where is he planning to put it all? Could it be that something is going on at Zhang Yi's home and he's hosting a banquet? Could he be getting married? But several hundred tables is way too terrifying. Look carefully. That's Hongfu Tianxia, a 5-star grand hotel. Reserving several hundred tables there would cost at least over $1 million. My God, spending over $1 million on a single banquet. Zhang Yi is really hiding his true wealth. We only knew before that his family was fairly well off, but now it looks like he's probably a super rich tycoon. The neighbors chattered among themselves, and the way they looked at Zhang Yi became full of fervor, tinged with a few traces of awe. Seeing this scene from the roadside, Fang Yuqing pressed her lips together even more, strengthening her resolve to win Zhang Yi over. She took the initiative to walk toward Zhang Yi and said with a smile, "Zhang Yi, what's your family been busy with lately? You've bought so many things." Zhang Yi ignored her and instead took out a cigarette and handed it to Uncle Yu. Seeing that the resident had arrived, Uncle Yu opened the barred gate and let the convoy from Hongfu Tianxia Grand Hotel enter the complex. Zhang Yi walked in front to lead the way, and although he paid no attention to Fang Yuqing, she didn't seem to mind in the slightest at this moment, following at his side and chatting cheerfully. "If there's something going on at home, why can't you tell me? Aren't we good friends? From now on, I hope I'll be able to get to know you better. Don't treat me like an outsider." Zhang Yi gave her a long look and sneered. "I bought all this stuff from my boss, and last time when we went to the Western restaurant, he was the one who treated us." As he spoke, he even let out a sigh. It would be great if I really were that rich." Fang Yuqing's expression changed immediately. "Why, you're not joking with me, are you?" Zhang Yi spread his hands. "Why would I lie to you? We've known each other for years. You know my family's situation well enough. My parents both passed away, and I'm just a warehouse supervisor. What money would I have?" His explanation made Fang Yuqing's expression flicker uncertainly. She had indeed been suspicious too. After all, for someone to be a rich second generation, their family would at least have to be running a big business. And Zhang Yi's parents had been dead for years. Although they had left behind some family property, that still didn't make him a rich second generation. Now that Zhang Yi had personally admitted that he wasn't a rich second generation, all the doubts in Fang Yuqing's heart were thus explained. She quietly put a little distance between herself and Zhang Yi, then smoothed her hair and said with a polite smile, "No matter whether you're a rich second generation or not, we're still best friends, aren't we? I'm not a materialistic woman." She deliberately stressed the words friends a little more heavily. A green tea girl never burns bridges completely, because she still needs backup guys and simps to serve her. Zhang Yi curled his lip and said nothing more to her. Meanwhile, the employees of Hongfu Tianxia began carrying tables of lavish dishes to the location designated by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi usually got along well with people, so he borrowed a storage room in the residential complex's basement from the property management. He had them put the things into the storage room first. Although the food for 500 tables was a huge amount, once packed into meal boxes, it actually didn't take up an overly exaggerated amount of space. What Zhang Yi ordered was all top-tier food: abalone, sea cucumber, shark fin, fish maw, Australian lobster, truffles, caviar, everything one could want. Moving the feast for 500 tables into the storage room took quite a while, and even the hotel manager was a bit tongue-tied at the sight. After working as a manager for so many years, this was the first time he had ever encountered such a massive takeout order. But Zhang Yi told them to just keep moving the items into the storage room. As for himself, he secretly waited until the movers had left, then put all the food into his own dimensional space. Others might have been suspicious and thought Zhang Yi was abnormal. But in this world, everyone is pretty busy. So who has the spare time to care about an irrelevant person like you? So whether it was the neighbors or the hotel employees, at most they only gossiped a little. No one truly took it to heart. Very quickly, Zhang Yi stored all 500 tables worth of food into his dimensional space. That evening, Zhang Yi received a call from Wu Huiran, the manager of Zhanlong Company. Wu Huiran told Zhang Yi that they were ready on their end and could come over at any time to build the safe house for him. He asked Zhang Yi when it would be convenient to start work. Zhang Yi directly told them they could come over tomorrow. As for himself, he planned to move into a hotel first. After talking about the safe house, Zhang Yi waited for Wu Huiran to continue. There was one more very important matter Zhang Yi had approached Wu Huiran about, and that was getting an equalizer. After hesitating for quite a while, Wu Huiran finally lowered his voice and said to Zhang Yi, "If you really have that kind of need, I can recommend a connection for you. But the price will be a bit expensive." Zhang Yi nodded. Of course he understood that. But when it came to money, he truly didn't care at all now. That's not a problem, as long as the quality is good, Wu Huiren said easily. All right, since that's the case, I'll make an introduction for you. In 3 days, I'll inform you of the location of the transaction. The gun connection was basically settled, and Zhang Yi felt much more at ease. In the apocalypse, with this thing, whether he encountered humans or non-human creatures, he would have tremendous confidence. The next day, Zhang Yi packed some important things from home into his space. The house was going to be turned into a safe house, so he had to temporarily move into a hotel. Early in the morning, 3 black vans drove into Yuelu residential complex. A large group of workers from Zhanlong Company, dressed in uniforms, got out and began measuring data for Zhang Yi's home. Quite a few neighbors around them saw this scene, their eyes full of curiosity as well. Did Zhang Yi take the wrong medicine lately? Why was he always making such a fuss? A few colleagues even joked with a laugh. Exactly. A few days ago at the supermarket, I even saw him buy 3 cartloads of food. Haha. Anyone who didn't know better would think the end of the world was coming. Stockpiling so much food. Won't it all go to waste once it expires? Maybe there's something wrong with him mentally. Everyone was baffled by Zhang Yi's strange behavior, but no one really cared, and only treated Zhang Yi as a joke. Even Fang Yuqing and Lin Caning thought something was wrong with Zhang Yi's head. Lin Caning suddenly said in realization, I think I've figured it out. No wonder he went to eat at a Michelin 3-star restaurant that day. Turns out his brain is broken. Fang Yuqing frowned, but her mood was especially sour. Just thinking about that day, when she had even taken the initiative to strike up a conversation with Zhang Yi and helped him push so many things home, leaving her feet weak from exhaustion, made her furious. What on earth is this Zhang Yi up to? Lin Caning said with some worry. He promised to treat us to a big meal. He's not going to forget, is he? She had been longing to eat at a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Fang Yuqing let out a snort of laughter. Forget it. Looking at how mentally unstable he's been lately, I wouldn't go even if he invited me. What if people find out we're eating with him? How embarrassing would that be? She was planning to land a rich husband in the future, so she absolutely could not ruin her reputation. When Lin Caning heard Fang Yuqing say that, although she felt very unwilling, she had no choice, and could only give up. As for Zhang Yi, he simply did not care at all what the neighbors thought. In a month, they would understand who the real joke was. Zhang Yi left home, then drove to the Walmart warehouse. Today was Monday, time to go to work, and while he was there, he could also take a good look around the warehouse to make things easier when the time came to make his move. Walmart's warehouse was in the economic development zone, on the outskirts of Tianhai City. Since land prices were relatively cheap here, many major companies in Tianhai City had their warehouses gathered here. Even some pharmaceutical companies' warehouses were here. That would make it convenient for Zhang Yi to get his hands on some special effect medicines later. After arriving at the Walmart warehouse, Zhang Yi clocked in for work as usual. As the warehouse supervisor, Zhang Yi was exceedingly familiar with the place. It could be said that he knew every warehouse, even every shelf, like the back of his hand. In the past, coming here always felt especially boring to him. But today, seeing these enormous warehouses and the supplies worth billions or even tens of billions, his heart was filled with uncontrollable excitement. Because before long, all of these things would be taken by him and become his most important living resources in the apocalypse. As Walmart's South China Central warehouse, the amount of supplies here was beyond anyone's imagination. There were tens of thousands of cases of Coca-Cola alone. The entire warehouse covered over 1 million square meters, and all kinds of daily necessities were piled up to the brim. Among them were not only food, clothing, hardware tools, and other daily goods, but even cars, drones, diesel generators, and drums of gasoline. It could almost be said that as long as it was something the supermarket was allowed to sell, you would definitely be able to buy it here. Zhang Yi had worked here for many years and already knew exactly what was placed on every shelf. Moreover, he was also very clear about the work schedule here and the locations of the cameras. Don't be fooled by how tight the surveillance was here. He, being familiar with its weaknesses, could cripple the entire surveillance system within 10 minutes. Then, using the power of his system space, he could take everything here away. But for now, Zhang Yi was in no hurry to act. There was still plenty of time, and he also did not want to alert the enemy.